Another guardrail that I'm interested in, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts, is with all these technology companies, is data privacy. That's one thing going forward that just, if I download any app and once I log into anything, I mean, I'm not sharing any data. I'm the guy who clicks everything off. I just don't like it. Uh, what do you look for in companies, and what do you think is the responsible thing for companies to do, technology companies who have all this data?
We are very, very focused on this issue because our investment firm only invests in information services companies. So we are sitting with companies that have a lot of data, collecting a lot of data, managing a lot of data, distributing data, analyzing data. It's data centric. And therefore, our clarity on data policies is one of the key things in our guardrails. We are looking at one company now that has a very, very big service in 1.8 million American homes and high-end homes. And there's a lot of data being collected. And it's very easy to come up with 20 new business plans on how to use that data and monetize it. And so we said, yeah, fine, we'll look at that. But there has to be some ground rules. The simplest ground rule is, does the provider of data know that you're collecting this data? Are you transparent enough to tell them, as part of the service I'm giving you, I'm collecting A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And of those, I must have the first four because without them, I can't service you. And those others I collect, because I'm happen to be there and I catch this data, I collect this data. Are we clear with those customers that we do? And do we have their permission as part of the service to collect the non-essential data? So this is the most basic. But then beyond that, if we are intending to use the data, then we need to be transparent of how we plan to use it. And if we use it, are we using it, obfuscating any personal data? And all those things, it's transparency. It's more than anything else. It's transparency and clarity. And then let the customer decide. And so when we buy these businesses, we make this a precondition of our engagement. Otherwise, it's very complicated to do it later.
I want to kind of get you to look in your crystal ball and see where this is going to go in the future. I personally think eventually we're just going to have there's going to be no privacy at all. And I see small things like, for example, Apple, I think, started doing this new thing where they're sorting through your photos to look for, I think, inappropriate underage content, to report that to the authorities. I think that's something Apple's never done before. And while, that's a noble thing, obviously, kind of seems like a slippery slope to me.
It is. And
do you think
they stopped, by the way?
Oh, they stopped? Okay.
Not because they got a lot of, frankly, what I would call reasonable criticism.
Okay, and that's a citizenry you're talking about.
Child pornography, but more about the slippery slope. So you're spot on. And
right. But that's now. Do you think 10, 20, 30 years from now, you're going to be able to opt out, or is just going to be their only promise to you is that only we're going to have it, and we're going to only use it if you're doing something bad? Do you think we're going to get there? Digital IDs, and then just our data, everything's going to be collected. We already have listening devices in our homes with all these smart technology, where eventually there is no privacy, and the only promise we get from the companies is we're only going to use this if you act bad. And then now it's a question of who's defining what act bad is, right? That becomes the issue.
So here's the bad news I'm going to give you. I think the concept of privacy that many of us have in our head is dead. There is no such thing as a cone of silence or of a place where you are. It's very hard. If you truly understand how many satellites are up there with sensors, if you truly grasp the number 1 trillion IoT devices by 2030, and just to give you a sense, today we're at 30 billion. 30 billion to a trillion, that's how many things surrounding us will be connected to the internet. That's how many things within us will be connected to the internet. My mom that I mentioned before was 95. Her doctor in Cedars-Sinai can adjust her heart rate from his iPhone.
Wow, how's that?
She has a motor.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And he remotely can do that. So in 10 years, there will be many people with things inside of them that will be, and around us. You remember not too long ago when the Nest thermostat was like an amazing thing connected to the internet.
Yeah.
Everything in our house, all the new houses being built are filled with sensors. Everything from your sprinkler head to your doorbell to every part of your infrastructure, everything will be connected to the internet and to the cameras. 5 years ago, the average number of cameras in homes was less than one. There aren't many cameras in homes. Today, the average is closer to 8 cameras in homes. Lots of cameras, watching your dog, watching your house, watching everything. So, this is the world we're living in now. Drones everywhere, satellites everywhere. There are now satellites with new technologies. A friend of mine asked me to check a land in Senegal. I called another friend of mine in the Bay Area who has a bunch of satellites, and he was able to get me details on this land that I could not even imagine.
Yeah.
They can even check the content of the soil now from the sky because of the new hyper spectrum capabilities in satellites. I mean, so I think I hate to give you this news if you didn't have it before, but the idea that I'm going to be private.
Right.
So what we need to start thinking of is, how do I manage my data? And what say do I have in how my data is collected and used? And I need government help with that. I need company help with that. And I need to be able to voice that. So there are many great, very smart people right now engaged in this area of thinking, how do you then create a new framework? And blockchains and new databases that are being created is one way to actually protect data and avoid its mutability. So there's all kinds of things happening in that space. But I think we need to get out of the idea of, I want to be, to being, how am I managing my data? And how am I sharing it? And who sees it? To do what with it? That's what we need to get to now, rather than thinking, I'm going to say no to everything, because it doesn't work. There's so many ways for you to be detected, tracked, managed, some of which you know, some of which you don't know.